Hello friends, today we're going to make a recipe from the one and only Joanna Gaines. So this is the Basic Ass Cooking Show. So today I'm going to use this recipe from Joanna Gaines. It is a cinnamon pecan bundt cake. I've made this cake before and it was fantastic, and I'm going to make it twice today to donate to a local organization here in my city. So I'm going to just demonstrate the technique for you today. So you will need flour. So I have my flour here in my nicely labeled container. You will need baking powder and baking soda. You need both. You will need some salt. Just have some regular ass salt right here. You will also need 3/4 cup of unsalted butter. So today the brand that I am going to use, I think this is Land O'Lakes. This is fine. You can also use Challenge. I did have a bad experience with I think it's called Lucerne, like the brand sold at Randall's or whatever, and it was greasy. So I just want to warn everybody, don't use that butter for stuff, especially if you're going to give it to other people. Okay, then you need the brown sugar. So you need some brown sugar. You will need some sour cream, and you can just buy the little cheapo sour cream, and you can buy some little cheapo milk, but I do suggest full fat. It's a dessert. Love yourself. Use the full fat, okay? And then you'll need some eggs. So I have these most expensive ingredient in the whole video is the eggs. And then you'll need some vanilla extract. So you'll see in a minute that this cake is basically 2 parts, but it's super easy. If you're going to make food for somebody else, you can also put on like a little head wrap or something to make sure you don't leave your hair in your dessert. And then for the strudel, so that's like part 2. I don't have my pecans out. I forgot before I started filming, but you will need some toasted pecans. Very easy to toast them. You'll need some brown sugar, and then you'll need some cinnamon. I have some Saigon cinnamon, but I did buy this, I think at Kroger's. This is quite tasty, but use whatever cinnamon you like. I don't know exactly what makes this Saigon cinnamon, but I also have like another kind of cinnamon. So use some cinnamon, whatever that means to you. So now we're going to start the video. So if you're following along, grab your pecans before you follow along. And I will leave this recipe link down below and you can check it out for yourself. So, oh, we also need one more thing. Hold on. Perhaps the most important part of this whole thing is the bundt pan. So if you don't know what a bundt pan, B-U-N-D-T pan is, it looks like this. This one is from Walmart or Target or whatever, doesn't matter. So you'll need one of these, and you'll need some spray to spray all of these little nooks and crannies so your cake comes out beautifully. I will include a picture of the one that I made before, and we're going to hope that the one that I made, both of the ones that I make today, will come out as beautiful and nice as that one. All right, so now we are ready to start. So I have already preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and I am going to take my bundt pan and spray it. So I have my bundt pan here. And you don't want to like add too much, but you don't want to be too shy about it either. So I use little like bursts, and doing it this way, like squeeze, 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 squeeze instead of squeeze. Doing it this way helps to give you some control over how the spray is distributed. But you do want to spray even the middle part because the batter will crawl up. And if you want it to crawl up in a somewhat uniform and nice kind of way, it needs to be able to grip to something to crawl up. So make sure to spray all around as best you can. But again, not like too much. So it's not pooling anywhere. That's what I mean by too much. So we have that. And we're going to set it aside. And for your spray, so this is just vegetable oil cooking spray. I would not recommend using like olive oil or something like that because it will have too much of its own flavor and you will taste that in the cake, which you don't probably want to do. So just use some kind of like no kind of taste or low taste cooking spray. All right, so coming back over here with our mixer. So I have my mixer here and I'm going to get my paddle. And you can use a hand mixer. I'm just doing this because I'm trying to be fast because I'm trying to do this between meetings and I have a meeting that starts I think in an hour. So I have so I'm going to start creaming the butter. So this technique is a little bit different than what is on the directions. But I always cream the butter a lot when I bake because it makes the cake have better fluffy texture. So for this cake, you will need 3/4 of a cup. I'm just going to double check. Yes, so 3/4 of a cup. These little cute little sticks are each 1/4, so 3/4 of a cup of butter, and they are softened. If your butter is not softened, you can put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds at a time until it is softened. So I have my butter. And yes, I was saying that I cream the butter and the sugar almost like whenever I make a cake, almost every time I do that first because it makes the cake fluffy and tender, super tender. So just working with lots of different ways to make the cake as tender as possible and creaming the butter and the sugar together aerates. That's why it's more tender. So now we're going to just take the white sugar actually. So for the white sugar, we need 1 cup. So we have our 1 cup of sugar. And this makes a 9-inch pecan bundt cake. Okay. So we have it all set. So now I'm going to turn this on and let it cream and such. So while it is creaming, you will want to occasionally stop it. If you're doing it in a mixer, you'll stop it and just scrape down the sides. And then start it over. While the mixer is going, I'm going to put together the dry ingredients. First, there is the all-purpose flour. Next is the baking powder. And then the baking soda. You do need both for the recipe to turn out correctly. And then we have the salt. Put all of the ingredients in a bowl and then whisk them together. Moving back over here, I'm going to show you. So, do you see how light and pretty and fluffy that is? So whenever you make a cake, if you cream the butter and sugar, follow the directions, but if it calls for like creaming, this creaming method, make sure to do it until the mixture is very, very light yellow. Don't just do it for like 30 seconds and call it done. So what I'm going to do now is to add the brown sugar. So I didn't cream them both together because I wasn't sure it was enough fat to basically make it work. So I just used the white sugar and the butter. So now I'm going to add the brown sugar. So we need 1 cup of white sugar and 1 cup of brown sugar. So in this recipe, it doesn't say that the sugar needs to be packed. Brown sugar is, like you can pack it and actually get in a lot more. But this does not say it needs to be packed. And when I made it the other day, I did not pack it. So I didn't like press it down to get more in. So I'm just using like a regular 1 cup of brown sugar. So now I'm going to mix these together. I am stopping the mixer and scraping off the paddle and the bowl just to make sure everything is very well mixed together. And don't forget to get the middle right underneath the paddle. Now we're going to move on to the eggs actually. So this cake calls for 3 eggs. So I always crack my eggs into a little container that is not the bowl, the mixing bowl, because you can easily fish out shell if you don't put it in like the big bowl. So now that the butter and the eggs and the sugars have been creamed together, now we're going to go on to the sour cream. So this recipe, this is like the second most expensive part of the recipe because you need 1.5 cups per cake of sour cream. So I have my 1 cup here. And the sour cream is really important. Use full fat. Again, it's a dessert. Don't eat it all day, every day, but also be serious about it. Use full fat. So the sour cream is another part of this recipe that makes the cake tender. So this is my little 1/4 cup. So we need 1.5 cups. And the acid and the sour cream helps to make things tender. It's similar to using like yogurt or buttermilk. So if you're a more expert baker, you can kind of also finagle these things if you know what you're doing. But for the purposes of the video, we're just going to use sour cream. Okay, so now we have that all nice and smooth. You saw me put together the dry ingredients. So I'm going to measure out my milk. So we also need 1/2 cup of milk. And we're going to alternate the wet and the dry and starting in with the dry. And I just realized I forgot the vanilla. So let's get that in there. So I'm going to use my vanilla extract. So we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So I'm going to add this right now. Perfect. Now we're going to add our next little bit of flour. Not too fast. And the last bit of flour. And that's it. Like, this is so easy. So this batter is pretty thick, as you can see. So this will be kind of what you're looking for. You can see that that's pretty thick. So now that everything is all mixed up, then you just want to make sure to get all of it off of your paddle. And you see how it's not perfect using the machine, so you have to also get down there at the bottom and just make sure everything is mixed up. Okay, so now all we have to do is toast our pecans and make the strudel. So I'm actually just gonna sit this aside for a moment, and we're gonna do that right now. Okay, moving over here to make the toasted pecans. So you just need some kind of pan. Doesn't really matter because you're not gonna leave them alone for very long. So we're gonna add our 3/4 cup of pecans. So I'll show you what I'm using. Okay, so I am using these pecan pieces that I got from Kroger's. You can, I do recommend, these are like pieces. I recommend using like the smaller bits. So I'm actually gonna like crush these up. But if you just buy the ones that are a bit smaller than this size, you don't have to also crush them up. So put them in the pan and somewhat lay them out in a single layer somewhat. And then put your heat on about medium. And you're going to just let them toast a little bit. Once you start to smell them, that is when you can take them off the heat. So it's pretty foolproof. Once they start to get heated up, you can just stir them around a little bit. But I'm going to leave them alone for a few moments, and once I smell them, I just stir them, let them go for like another 30 seconds, and then you're done. Okay, y'all, we are almost there. So take your toasted pecans, and again, you will definitely want to buy the ones that are a little bit already chopped up. It makes for a nicer eating experience. Little bites. Okay, but if you did not do that like I didn't, then you can just definitely chop them up like this to a little bit smaller consistency. They don't have to be dust by the time you're done, but definitely chop it up a little bit more. And you guys, I have to make 2 of these, okay? And I'm gonna skimp just a little bit. I'm gonna be honest because I don't have another whole almost cup of pecans. So I am going to reserve a little bit of this for my second cake. So for the strudel, we need the toasted pecans, and then we need 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So I have my 1/4 cup measure here. And forgive my little my little drawer that constantly rolls out. I have to get it checked out. But so I have my 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And then we need 1 whole teaspoon of cinnamon. So again, I am using this Saigon cinnamon. And we need 1 teaspoon. So I'm actually going to just, if you get a little bit more in it than you intend to, like how I'm doing now, it's okay. It's still going to be very tasty. And then we will take our chopped up pecans. You can use your hands or you can use a spoon. I'm going to use my spoon so I can kind of break up any little bits of the brown sugar. But you can definitely use your hand. And this is already smelling so good. So now we're at the good part. We're at the good part where we get to assemble, and it's so easy. So I'm just stirring this up until all of the sugar is the same color. So when you put in the cinnamon, it's a bit darker and a bit like a redder hue than the sugar. And you just stir it up until it's all the same color. So now I'm going to take my pan, and I have my batter from before. So I'm just going to stir it up one more time. Just make sure it's all even. And now I'm going to put half. So you put roughly half. And I'm going to take my small offset spatula and scrape off this part. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you want it to be perfect, like you can weigh everything out and all of that stuff. But this is not a time and a place for even the pursuit of perfection, because it does not even really matter. So now I'm going to take my offset spatula, and I'm just going to somewhat evenly distribute the batter around. And again, do not pursue perfection, just pursue kind of good enough, okay? I'm telling you that, but I'm really telling myself that, all right? So then, do the old tappa so you can make sure everything is like nestled in those little nooks and crannies perfectly. And then you just sprinkle on this mixture. And then use the same offset spatula to even it out. So just turn it around. So I have like too much right there. I'm just going to turn it around and spread it out. And if you get a little bit of sugar, like you see right here, I got a little bit of sugar on the side. That's okay. Just, leave it be. And then put the rest on top. So now we're going to scrape. We want to get as much out as possible. If you also have an aluminum bowl for your mixer, so if you're using like the KitchenAid mixer, then this is a time to maybe, my hands are clean, this is a time to maybe use the aluminum bowl because it's substantially less heavy than the glass one, but the glass one is pretty for filming because you can see inside. So I am just doing my best to Make sure that the batter is mostly even. And like I said, all those little divots and such throughout the pan, make sure to spread as best you can. And then you should really tap your pan for whatever cake you make, you know, just to make the air bubbles pop, and it will make the top of it prettier. So, okay, so now you're done. All you have to do is put this in the oven until it is done. Bake it until it's done. So the directions say that it should take about 45 to 50 minutes. I do believe when I made this last week for my oven, which I think runs a little bit cooler than what it says, I think it took about like an hour. So you just need to take a toothpick and test it after about 45 minutes, all right? So now I'm gonna put it in the oven and I'll be back. Once the cake is baked, then it's time to get it out. Cross your fingers. So you can take a piece of parchment paper and put it on top of a wire rack. And this is a little difficult to do because in my case, I let the cake cool for about 5 minutes so the pan was still hot. So just do your best to basically flip the cake over. And my little cooling rack thing has feet on it, and that makes it a little bit harder too. So just flip it over onto the parchment paper, and that keeps the bottom really nice and straight without any lines. And then hopefully your cake will come out. So now we're ready to finish off our cake. It turned out absolutely beautiful. So I am now going to add a little bit of powdered sugar. So if you're going to serve the cake like on your turntable, so I have a turntable here. So if you're going to like have it out for your party, serve it, then you should cut the piece of paper in half, put the cake on top, and then after you powder everything, pull the pieces of paper from under the cake, and that'll take the extra powdered sugar with it and leave you with a powdered cake, but not too much mess on your turntable. So I saw Martha Stewart do that one time, and that was very clever. So I just thought I'd share that with you. For my purposes, like I mentioned before, I think I did at least, these cakes are all for donation. So I have the other one that's in the oven that should be done in about 25 minutes. But this one's cool. So I'm going to powder it, and then I will show you how I'm going to package it up because I don't have like a proper bundt pan kind of thing to transport it in. So for your powdered sugar, you just use any kind of sifter. I cannot find my smaller sifter. I actually think I recycled it when I moved because it had a tear in the mesh. So I'm just going to use this one, and you just knock. I don't like that noise, so I'm just knocking on the side, or you can actually use your hand, which is the most effective and makes the least amount of noise. So you just dust it. This is absolutely beautiful. You can also serve this with a little bit of whipped cream. So I probably will not serve, I'm probably not going to take whipped cream to the event that I'm going to because it will be difficult to keep cold. But you can also serve it with some of this stuff. So this is from Kroger. This is basically extra creamy dairy whipped topping. It is sweetened. So if you don't want to make your whipped cream from scratch, this stuff is really good. And it's never going to be as good as like fresh whipped cream, but it's pretty good. So you can just, like cut a slice and then add a little bit on the side, and it comes out pretty because it has a little top. So that's an option too if you want to serve it with whipped cream and you don't want to make the whipped cream. You can also serve it with some ice cream. Like if it's nice and warm out of the oven for your party, if you're baking close to time for the people to eat it, it can be warm and you serve it with a little bit of ice cream, and that would be nice too. So now we have our cake, and I think earlier in the video I made a joke about using bad butter. This is not the time to buy cheap butter, because if your butter is too greasy, when you put this layer of powdered sugar on this cake, if the butter is too greasy, it will like all get absorbed. It'll like absorb and start making it look ugly and patchy, and you won't have the nice pretty white coating on top. So that's just a little tip from a person who's kind of type A about baking things. So now I'm going to show you how I will transport it. Okay, so to transport it, all you need to do is put the cake on a plate. So just make sure the plate will fit, like it'll fit on the plate, like that. Trying to get it nice and centered so that it doesn't break. Like, because this plate, the plate is fine, but it does it doesn't sit perfectly like down in here. So it's kind of resting like around here. I know this is so technical. This is just, if you ever wanted an uncut version of me, this is what you get. It's very super. I'm great at parties. Invite me, please. I will talk about the circumferences of cakes versus plates. So for this, now that it's on the plate, and this is a way you can do this and carry the dessert to another place and not have to worry about getting your cake pan back. So like if you have like a turntable or something really nice that you don't want to stick around all night, if you're like me, you get overwhelmed being around people and you just need to leave, you can just feel good about leaving a nice paper plate with the cake on it, and then you can go on and go back into your little safety nest like I like to do. So I am going to first just add some plastic wrap to the top and just gently kind of tuck it underneath. My mom has so many funny horror stories about making things for church functions, and then she would never see her Tupperware again. So I am very concerned about that. So now I'm going to take my second plate and kind of position the ends of the plastic wrap down inside of it, and then it'll kind of keep it like this. Kind of keep it from moving around too much, and it's kind of like a little bit of a seal. So once you start to press it, you'll see that the powdered sugar, it might get absorbed a little bit, but it should be not too bad because I used pretty good butter. So this is it. So this is one of the cakes, and I will repeat this process for the other cake. If you are a little concerned, you can also take some tape and tape these two together, and that will also keep it a little bit more secure. So this is a way you can transport your beautiful bundt cake with no worries about getting your Tupperware back. So I hope you Let's cover that up. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I think I haven't edited it yet, obviously, but I think it'll be a little bit of a longer one. I hope you enjoyed all of the little tips and such that I tried to give you during this video. And thank you so much for subscribing and for liking and for commenting down below. Let me know if you're going to make this cake. You can find the recipe linked down below straight to Joanna Gaines' website. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching and bye.